Have you ever caught yourself thinking, I don't bounce back like I used to? Maybe it's after climbing a few stairs, or getting over a cold, or even just feeling wiped out by a long day. It's not just your imagination. As we grow older, our bodies do change, but that doesn't mean we're powerless. In fact, what you choose to do today can have a major impact on your energy, independence, and even how many more healthy years you get to enjoy. Now, I know this isn't always an easy conversation to have. Talking about aging and death, not exactly the topic we bring up over coffee with friends. But the truth is, once we hit our 70s and beyond, the risks to our health become more real and more specific. The good news? Most of the time, they're not surprises. And even better, many of them can be prevented, or at least delayed, by taking simple, thoughtful actions. So, let's talk honestly for a moment. The vast majority of deaths after the age of 75 are linked to just a few key causes. And no, this isn't about scaring you. It's about empowering you. Knowing what those causes are, understanding what makes them dangerous, and learning how to outsmart them. That's a gift. It's the kind of information that can help you stay stronger, live longer, and keep doing the things you love for as long as possible. Today, we're going to walk through 5 major health threats that tend to show up later in life. But more importantly, we'll talk about how to recognize them, how to reduce your risk, and how to take back control. Because aging may be inevitable, but how we age is not. Let's start with one that hits close to home for many of us: heart disease. You might be surprised to learn that heart disease is still the #1 cause of death among people over 75. It's not just something that happens to men or to people who've already had heart attacks. It can sneak up quietly, without dramatic chest pain or alarming symptoms. In fact, some of the most common signs, like fatigue, shortness of breath, or feeling like you're slowing down, often get brushed off as just getting older. But here's the thing: your heart is a muscle. And like any muscle, it needs care, attention, and movement to stay strong. If it's overworked, underfed, or ignored for too long, it starts to wear down. That's when trouble begins. One of the biggest culprits behind heart trouble is high blood pressure. What makes it especially dangerous is that it usually comes with no obvious symptoms. You can't feel it creeping through your arteries, straining your heart with every beat. You can't sense the damage it's doing until something goes wrong, like a heart attack or stroke. That's why it's often called the silent killer. So what can you do? First, if you haven't had your blood pressure checked lately, that's step 1. It takes just a few minutes and could save your life. If it's high, talk to your doctor. There are medications that can help, but lifestyle changes are just as important, and in some cases, even more effective. Take a look at what's on your plate each day. Are you eating more processed snacks and salty foods than you used to? It's easy to fall into habits that aren't heart-friendly, especially when cooking feels like a chore or your appetite changes. But every bite matters. Choose colorful fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats like olive oil or avocado. Not only are these foods nourishing, but they also actively support your heart and circulation. And let's not forget about movement. You don't need to run a marathon or hit the gym for hours. Even a gentle walk around the block, a few stretches in your living room, or some light gardening can make a big difference. The key is consistency. Your heart loves routine. The more you move, the better it pumps, the more oxygen your body gets, and the more energy you'll feel. Now, maybe you're thinking, but my mom had heart problems. Isn't it just genetic? Family history can play a role, yes, but your everyday habits matter just as much, if not more. What you eat, how you move, how you manage stress. Those are powerful levers. You have more control than you've been led to believe. Speaking of control, let's shift to something that often feels like it's out of our hands, but actually isn't: falling. Falls are one of the most overlooked and underestimated dangers for older adults. And I don't mean just a little stumble. I'm talking about serious, life-changing injuries like a broken hip or head trauma that can lead to long hospital stays, loss of independence, and a slow, painful recovery. In fact, for many women over 75, one bad fall is the beginning of a long decline. What makes falls so sneaky is how they happen. One moment you're standing in the kitchen reaching for a mug, and the next you're on the floor. Maybe it's a slippery tile, maybe you stood up too fast and felt dizzy, or maybe your foot caught on the edge of a rug you've walked over 100 times. But it's not just the fall itself that's the problem. It's what happens afterward. A fall can shake your confidence. You start avoiding stairs, skipping your daily walks, hesitating to do simple things. But the less you move, the weaker your muscles become. And the weaker you get, the more likely you are to fall again. It's a vicious cycle, but one that can be broken. First things first, let's talk strength. No, I'm not suggesting lifting heavy weights or joining a CrossFit class. But building leg and core strength is absolutely essential. These are the muscles that help you balance, catch yourself, and recover if you do trip. Simple chair exercises, light yoga, or balance training, like standing on one foot while holding the back of a chair, these all help. And yes, it can be as gentle or as active as you need. The point is to start. Next, look around your home. Is it fall-friendly? Are there loose rugs, cluttered walkways, or poor lighting in the hallway? Small changes like adding night lights, using non-slip mats, and installing grab bars in the bathroom can dramatically reduce your risk. Think of it like baby-proofing, except you're future-proofing yourself. One more thing that's often missed: medication. So many prescriptions, even common ones, can cause side effects like dizziness, low blood pressure, or drowsiness. If you've ever stood up and felt lightheaded, that could be a warning. Bring it up with your doctor. You don't have to live with those symptoms. Sometimes a small tweak in dosage or timing can make all the difference. And please don't let fear stop you from moving. I know it's tempting to play it safe, to stay seated more, to avoid outings, but movement is your best protection. Confidence comes from capability. The more you practice balance, the more your body remembers how to respond. You've made it this far in life with resilience and grace. A fall shouldn't take that away from you. The goal isn't just to avoid injury, it's to keep you strong, active, and independent for as long as possible. Now that we've talked about the heart and the risks of falling, let's keep going, because there's another area of health that often goes unnoticed, until suddenly it doesn't. Let's talk about your breathing. It's something you've done every day of your life without even thinking. But somewhere along the way, maybe you noticed a little shortness of breath after making the bed. Or you found yourself coughing more than usual during colder months. Maybe stairs that never used to bother you suddenly feel like a mountain. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And more importantly, it's not just normal aging. Breathing problems in your later years can be a sign that your lungs aren't getting the support they need. Respiratory diseases like chronic bronchitis, emphysema, or even just a stubborn case of pneumonia are some of the leading causes of hospitalization, and sadly even death for people over 75. Not because they're unstoppable, but because they often sneak up slowly, quietly, and without enough warning. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, is one of the biggest culprits. And while the name sounds complicated, it boils down to this. Your lungs become inflamed and narrowed, making it harder to breathe. It can start as a simple cough that won't go away, or a wheeze that shows up in the winter and lingers too long. Many women brush it off as allergies, or just assume they're out of shape. But this kind of breathlessness is your body's way of asking for help. And then there's pneumonia. It might sound like a childhood illness, or something you only catch when you're already sick. But for seniors, pneumonia can be fast and devastating. What starts as a little cold can turn into a lung infection that knocks you flat, lands you in the hospital, and sometimes that never really lets you recover fully. That's because as we age, our immune system gets slower at responding. It's like a security guard that falls asleep on the job. The invaders come in, and before your body can rally the troops, the damage is already underway. So how do we stay ahead of this? First, let's talk air. What you breathe in every day matters more than you think. Dust, smoke, even strong cleaning chemicals. These can irritate your lungs over time. And yes, even inside your home, you might be breathing in things that make it harder to stay healthy. Mold, pet dander, stale air from closed-up windows. Those are the kinds of quiet irritants that wear your lungs down day after day. One easy change? Open a window when the weather's nice. Let the air flow. Invest in a small air purifier for the room you spend the most time in. And if you still smoke, even just the occasional puff, or if someone else in your home does, now's the time to stop. Your lungs have done a lot for you. They deserve a break. Then there's movement. Yes, again. Because when you move, you breathe deeper. You open up parts of your lungs that don't get used when you're sitting. That helps clear out mucus, keeps airways flexible, and makes it easier to fight off infection. Even 5 minutes of slow, steady walking, or lifting your arms over your head and stretching while you breathe deeply, can help. Hydration plays a quiet but powerful role too. Water helps thin mucus and keeps your airways from drying out. If you're not drinking enough throughout the day, everything gets a little stickier, literally. A simple goal? Try sipping water throughout the day instead of waiting until you're thirsty. And finally, vaccines. They're not just for kids. Staying up to date on your flu shot and your pneumonia vaccine could be what keeps you out of the hospital this winter. You'd be amazed how many older adults skip them thinking they're no big deal, until they get hit hard by something that could have been avoided with a quick visit to the clinic. Breathing is life, and you deserve to breathe easily, freely, and fully for years to come. You don't have to wait until it gets bad to take care of your lungs. Now, I want to gently bring us into something that's a little more serious and also very personal for many families. Stroke. If you've ever known someone who's had a stroke, you've seen how fast it can change everything. One moment, they're talking and walking. The next, they're in the hospital, struggling to speak, to move, to understand. It's terrifying, and it often feels like it comes out of nowhere. But in truth, most strokes don't happen randomly. They're the result of tiny risks building up over time, risks we can actually do something about. A stroke happens when the blood flow to part of your brain gets blocked, or when a blood vessel in your brain bursts. Without blood and oxygen, brain cells start dying within minutes. That's why every second counts. And it's also why knowing the warning signs and reducing your risk ahead of time is so important. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you checked your blood pressure? High blood pressure is one of the leading causes of stroke. And like we talked about earlier, it doesn't always come with symptoms. You can feel totally fine and still be walking around with dangerous pressure building inside your arteries. It's like a balloon being slowly overinflated, It might look okay until it suddenly pops. What's even trickier? Some people have something called atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat that makes the blood in your heart pool instead of flow. That pooling can lead to clots, and if one of those clots breaks free and travels to your brain, that's a stroke waiting to happen. The only way to know you have it is through a simple test. But most people don't even realize they should ask. If you've ever felt your heart flutter or race for no reason, or if you just want peace of mind, mention it at your next checkup. There are medications and treatments that can lower your risk dramatically. But even beyond the doctor's office, there are things you can do at home that make a real difference. Eating a diet that supports healthy blood flow, things like leafy greens, berries, walnuts, and fish, can help keep your arteries clear and your brain sharp. On the flip side, a steady diet of salty processed foods can clog your arteries, raise your blood pressure, and increase your stroke risk without you even realizing it. And yes, once again, movement plays a part. Getting your blood pumping in a healthy way helps prevent clots from forming. Even light movement, like dancing in the kitchen, stretching in the morning, or walking with a friend, can help your circulation stay strong. There's one more warning sign I want to mention here, and it's something most people ignore. It's called a TIA, or mini stroke. It might look like confusion that clears up, a moment of slurred speech, or a sudden feeling of weakness that goes away. Because it passes quickly, people often shrug it off. But it's actually a loud, flashing warning sign from your brain. If it happens even once, go to the ER. Don't wait. TIAs are often followed by full strokes within days or weeks. But the good news is that window gives you a chance to prevent something worse. Stroke doesn't always give second chances. But the choices you make today, the foods you eat, the habits you build, the questions you ask your doctor can help ensure your brain stays clear, your body stays mobile, and your life stays yours to enjoy. Let's keep this conversation going. There's one more cause we need to talk about. And while it may not be as sudden or dramatic as a heart attack or stroke, it can slowly, quietly take away your independence unless you stay ahead of it. Let's talk about something that many people fear more than any illness, but few talk about openly: memory loss, confusion, losing touch with yourself or the people around you. I'm talking about cognitive decline. Now, I know this can be a sensitive topic. No one wants to imagine forgetting their loved ones' names or getting lost in a familiar neighborhood. But for many people over 75, conditions like Alzheimer's and dementia start with small changes, little slips in memory, confusion with tasks that used to be simple, or even just feeling mentally foggy more often than usual. And because those changes happen gradually, they're easy to dismiss or ignore until they aren't. What's heartbreaking is that many women quietly notice the signs in themselves but are too afraid to speak up. They worry it means they're losing it or becoming a burden. But here's what I want you to know. Catching those signs early is not a weakness. It's an incredible act of strength. Because the truth is, while we can't fully stop cognitive decline, we can slow it down. We can delay its progression, sometimes by years, with simple, consistent habits. You don't have to surrender your independence to memory loss. Not now, and maybe not ever. So let's start with the most powerful tool you have: your brain itself. Your brain is like a muscle. And just like your legs or your heart, it needs exercise to stay strong. That doesn't mean you need to do crossword puzzles all day, though those certainly help. It means staying mentally curious. Learn something new. Read a book that challenges you. Try a new recipe. Watch a documentary on a subject you've never explored. Every time you push your brain to think, to remember, to solve, you're building resilience. You're creating new pathways that help keep your mind sharp. And don't underestimate the power of play. Games, puzzles, brain teasers, even simple memory challenges with friends. These are all great ways to keep your brain engaged without it feeling like work. But brain health isn't just about what you think. It's also about how you live. One of the most overlooked risk factors for mental decline is loneliness. Yes, really. When you go days, or even weeks, without meaningful connection, your brain starts to pull back. Social interaction is nourishment for your mind. Conversation, laughter, even a quick phone call or a walk with a neighbor keeps your thoughts active and your emotions balanced. If you're someone who's become more isolated lately, maybe because of mobility issues, or friends moving away, or even just feeling too tired to talk, I want to gently challenge you. Reach out. Start small. A short chat, a visit to the local senior center, a Zoom call with family. These moments matter, not just for your mood, but for your mind. Now let's talk about food. You've probably heard about brain food before, and it's not just a catchy phrase. What you eat directly affects how your brain performs. Omega-3 fatty acids, for instance, found in salmon, walnuts, and flax seeds, are like premium fuel for your neurons. Berries, leafy greens, and nuts are loaded with antioxidants that help reduce inflammation in the brain. And hydration? That's a big one. Dehydration can cause confusion, headaches, and sluggish thinking, especially as we age. On the flip side, diets high in processed sugar and saturated fats have been linked to faster cognitive decline. That doesn't mean you have to give up every treat, but being mindful of how much and how often you're indulging makes a big difference. Think of your meals as medicine, each bite a small act of care for your future mind. Physical activity plays a huge role too. Did you know that moving your body improves blood flow to the brain? That oxygen boost helps improve memory, focus, and overall brain function. Even 15 minutes of gentle stretching, walking, or dancing in your kitchen can support your cognitive health. It's not about intensity, it's about intention. One more thing, and it's something many women overlook: managing your medications. Certain prescriptions, especially when combined, can cause drowsiness, confusion, or even hallucinations. If you've ever felt foggy or off after starting a new medication, don't brush it off. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist. Sometimes it's a matter of adjusting the dose or switching to something more suitable. You deserve clarity, not confusion. So what does all of this mean? It means that even though cognitive decline is common, it's not inevitable. You have the tools to protect your memory, your focus, and your independence. And it starts with the choices you make today. Now, I want to take a moment to step back and look at the bigger picture. We've talked about 5 of the biggest threats to your health after 75: heart disease, falling injuries, lung conditions, strokes, and cognitive decline. Each one of them can sound scary on its own. But here's what's beautiful. They're not just a list of problems. They're a set of invitations. An invitation to tune into your body, to notice what it's telling you. An invitation to act, not out of fear, but out of love for yourself, your life, and the people who care about you. Because you have more power than you think. The way you eat, the way you move, the way you connect, the way you stay curious. These aren't just small daily habits. They're keys to a longer, fuller, more joyful life. And here's the best part. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to overhaul your entire routine overnight. Just pick one thing, one step in the right direction. Add more color to your plate. Take a short walk this afternoon. Call a friend you've been meaning to catch up with. Say yes to trying that new exercise class or brain game you've been curious about. Because the real secret to staying vibrant after 75, it's not about avoiding age, it's about embracing it with wisdom, action, and intention. You've already lived through decades of change, challenge, and growth. You've gained perspective that can't be taught in books or online videos. This chapter of life isn't about slowing down, it's about savoring, protecting what matters, celebrating your strength, and showing the next generation that aging doesn't mean fading, it means rising into everything you've become. So let me ask you, what's one thing from this video that inspired you? What's one small change you can make starting today to care for your health and well-being? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Scroll down to the comments and share what resonated with you most. Your experience might just be the encouragement someone else needs. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to click the like button. It really helps others find this kind of content. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Elderly Faith Journey and turn on notifications so you never miss a chance to learn, grow, and thrive right alongside us. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. You are not alone on this path. We're in this together. Let's keep choosing health, joy, and strength at any age. Here's to living your best life with clarity, confidence, and care. Until next time, take a deep breath, stand tall, and know that your journey is far from over. It's just getting good.